Welcome to Fear No Evil, and the evils we're speaking about today are sexual crimes. Mainly because they're in the media, and Conyers has just stepped down from the Judiciary Committee. And so the topic is out into society right now. However, the sexual crimes started with Roy Moore with an allegation of pedophilia, and now we are in the arena of workplace sexual harassment. However, America can't even distinguish the difference, really, between pedophilia and child sexual molester. If Roy Moore only allegedly sexually assaulted one child, he's not a pedophile. He's a child molester. And America can't even distinguish that pedophilia crosses everybody's path. Doesn't matter who you are, you can be subject to being either a victim of a pedophile or being a pedophile yourself. The one main characteristic of falling into pedophilia is mainly the fact that you are still a child sexual abuse survivor, meaning you were sexually abused as a child. Not too many people who practice pedophilia are people who are not sexual abuse survivors themselves. Child molesters don't necessarily have to be sexually abused as children. And there are differences in our child molesters. Now, that's a very different sexual crime than workplace sexual harassment. However, in America, we're supposed to be having this cultural shift. This mind change, supposedly, is what I keep hearing from the liberal side of the aisle, as well as the Republican side of the aisle. However, it's not really a cultural change. If people cannot speak about pedophilia and make that distinction all the way to workplace sexual harassment. And in the middle of all that, you can have child pornography, sexual trafficking, you can have pornography, you can have all sorts of fetishes and sexual crimes. So there's a whole lot in this subject. But the fact that we're just scratching the surface doesn't mean that we're having some kind of culture shift or cultural change. We're having this discussion because in many states, the statute of limitations prohibits victims from coming forward with their stories when they remember that they've been hurt by the abuse that occurred in their life. It's very different. If you've been sexually harassed in the workplace, you don't forget. You don't remember 20 years later that you were sexually harassed in the workplace, especially not today. There has been too much education out there, too much empowering of women that we don't understand when we've been sexually harassed in the workplace. Now, these women were smart enough to get a job, graduate from colleges, some of them at the top colleges, some of them have these high-paying jobs, but you're trying to convince the rest of us that you were victim enough that you couldn't come forward and say something to someone. It's not like you forgot your abuse. It's not like you forgot the violation. You just chose yourself not to say something because you needed the job or you needed the paycheck or you liked the perks of the job or the reputation or the job was just a stepping ladder to your next place where you really wanted to be. So that the ambition for the job really outshadowed your willingness to say something to someone. But you want to say that you were scared of these men that were in these positions of power and that you feel you needed to get to some kind of position of power in order to say something to someone. But as a true survivor of any sexual violation, your position of power is in saying something when it's going on. Now, for the child who's been sexually abused, that's not always available for them. A lot of times they forget the abuse in order to go on and survive and go on with life and may not remember their abuse until years later. And then here comes the state saying, you can't tell your story, you can't have your day in court because you passed the statute of limitations. And a lot of these women who have been sexually harassed have been past their statute of limitations. However, they were women at the time of the violation and could have said something. Some of them have signed agreements were of confidentiality. Why sign the agreement if you want to say something later on? You had a responsibility to say something, because by you not saying anything, you allowed women behind you to experience the same kind of violation. That true sexual violations change people's lives. They're never the same after something like that happens. So you were willing to climb the corporate ladder of success on the backs of other women behind you that you know that their lives are going to be changed forever, but you couldn't say anything? You're not a hero. It's good that you're saying something right now, but you're not a hero. Heroes are those children who say something when it's happening. Heroes are those who say something and lose their job because they did say something. The whistleblowers, those are the heroes. Those that just want to come forward now, maybe because someone's going up for some kind of race in politics, or these people are powerful politicians or producers or whatever. You're just scratching the surface. And these supposed feminists who want us to believe that they're empowering women right now. Well, you can't even talk about all the issues. You can't talk about the fact that men get sexually violated and sexually harassed by other men. They get sexually harassed by women, and women get sexually harassed by women. And you want to say as well that the men need to come out and be the ones that come forward, because that's what's going to change everything. No, those who have been sexually harassed in real time right now just need to come out and say something and lose their positions and their jobs and their reputations in order to protect those behind them. Because that's why sexual abuse survivors come out. They come out to protect the children that are behind them. And they risk everything that they know and everything about their lives. And they risk it to come out and say something, to speak up and to rise up, to help the children behind them. The women had an opportunity to help the women behind them, but they chose not to. And although we congratulate them for coming out and saying something, you missed the boat. So don't think that you're a hero right now. You just come out for your own healing right now. But don't think that you're helping anybody by the fact that you came out. Because in the fact of you trying to help somebody, you've also hurt a lot of women. And that's the responsibility you need to take. And the media trying to put this in the public arena and be the persecutors. No, the media needs to advocate for the laws to be changed in states, the statutes of limitations removed, so that victims can come forward and tell the story, because that's where the real issues are. And if America really wants to be serious about this, they'll talk about the 1 in 4 girls who are sexually abused and the 1 in 6 boys who are sexually abused. CNN quoted that it was 1 in 9 girls. No, it's 1 in 4 girls. Look up the statistics again. That's a lot of children being abused today in real time. If America really, 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 really wants a change, they will talk about the allegations of pedophilia all the way to the workplace sexual harassment. They will include both genders. They will include the LGBT. They will include pedophilia. And that is when we'll get a cultural change. And until that happens, all of this is for an agenda. And in the end, if people don't start rising up in this moment, and I hope that survivors and victims do, and make their voices so loud that these voices no longer can be ignored. Because even in these allegations against the men, there are many victims' voices are still being ignored. They're still being shut out. And the media doesn't have the right to tell the stories of the victims. These are our stories. We will tell them.